everyone, this is Adit. Welcome to my channel Movement Science, where I simplify biomechanics with Joe. If you are new to this channel, consider subscribing because I simplify biomechanics over here and also talk about ortho and clinical applications which you can use in your daily practice. Also check me out on Instagram where I post the pictures of my notes and also daily MCQs so that you can brush up your biomechanics. In this video, I am going to talk about the function of the plantar arch, and I try to put everything in one video, so it might be slightly on the longer side, but stay with me till the end of the video so that you get a proper understanding of the whole topic. The reference time for all the topics that I'm going to cover will be mentioned down in the description, so check that out and let's get started. In this video, we are going to talk about the plantar arch function. We will also cover the weight distribution, how the weight is distributed between the hindfoot, midfoot and forefoot. Then we will also see how muscles help in the functioning of the plantar arch, that is stability and mobility, how they help in providing that. So the plantar arch provides us with stability as well as the mobility. Now, how does it provide and why do we need it? So to explain that, let us get Joe into the picture. So when you are walking, the leg which is behind is in weight bearing, right? And your leg in front is swinging. So this is the stance phase. And during the stance phase, your leg has to push off from the ground. You have to plantar flex and push off from the ground. And now when you are pushing off, the whole weight of your body is being pushed off by just your foot, and that is a lot of weight. So to push off such a large amount of weight, your ankle has to be very stable. And what about the mobility? So when your leg hits the ground, it encounters different kind of surfaces. Sometimes it can be a sand, or sometimes it can be a pebble, grass, or just a flat surface. So to adapt to different surfaces, your ankle should have a lot of mobility, and this is also provided by your plantar arches. Now this function of stability and mobility is provided to the plantar arch by a major component, that is the plantar fascia or plantar aponeurosis. To understand that, first we will have to look at the attachments of the plantar fascia. So let's look at that first. So the plantar aponeurosis is attached to the medial tubercle of the calcaneum over here, then the plantar plates anteriorly, and as it touches it, it goes and attaches to the proximal phalanx. Via the plantar plates, it goes and attaches to the proximal phalanx. So it is a kind of a rubbery or a material which is very stretchy. So what it does is it attaches over here on the medial tubercle of the calcaneum. So this is the calcaneum, the medial side, the medial tubercle, it attaches, and then it goes along the foot, and then anteriorly it goes and attaches to the phalanx over here, right? And before attaching to the phalanx, it is also connected to the plantar plates over here. If you remember, in our last video we talked about the plantar plates which are present over here like this, right? So this is the deep transverse ligament, the blue color, and these red colors were the plantar plates, right? So the plantar fascia comes from the medial tubercle, it attaches to the plantar plates over here, and then through them it goes and attaches to the phalanx. Apart from this, the plantar arch has other structures like the posterior strut and the anterior strut. So these are the two struts, and the plantar arch is called as the tie rod. Now if you see what are the forces they undergo, the weight comes from the top, that is the down arrow, and then it is transmitted downward like this. And down here the ground is there. So your calcaneum or the posterior strut and a part of talus is compressed between your body weight and the ground at bottom, and it undergoes a compressive force. So the strut undergoes compressive force, whereas the anterior strut, if you see, that also goes compressive force, that is the force is coming from here, and then the ground is there which is not movable. So it is compressed again between the ground and the body weight. So both the strut undergo compressive forces, whereas the tie rod, that is the plantar aponeurosis or plantar fascia, they are being pulled from both the direction, right? You see the force is going in this direction, this force is going in this direction, and they are attached on both the parts. So over here they are getting pulled from both the directions, so they undergo tensile force. Whereas the plantar plates, if you see, which are present over here, the body weight is also falling on them, as well as they are getting pulled by the plantar fascia. If you see, the plantar fascia will pull the plantar plates, hence they undergo both compressive as well as tensile forces. Let us see how plantar fascia helps to provide stability to the ankle joint. Now the mechanism that we are going to learn is called as the windlass mechanism. So let's dive into it. First, what happens is when you are walking, there is MTP extension that is occurring, right? Your heel will be lifted off as you are going forward, and there will be MTP extension. Now, when this MTP extension is caused, that is upward movement, we saw that this plantar fascia is attached to the proximal phalanx, right? So when it is going upward, the plantar fascia will be pulled. Plantar fascia or plantar aponeurosis will be pulled. And hence MTP extension, the plantar fascia will become taut. Now when this becomes taut, it will bring the struts together. How? When this becomes taut, what will it do? It will pull back, right? It will pull back, and when it's pulling back, if you see, both the struts will come together, will come closer. Now when this happens, if you look at the foot, when this happens, this is basically supination of the subtalar and the overall foot, right? The supination is occurring at the foot. Now when supination occurs, this is also supported by your intrinsic muscles and also the tibialis posterior. We'll talk about the muscles in depth in our next video, so stay tuned for that, but let's go forward. So supination occurs and it is also supported by your intrinsic muscles. Now when supination is occurring, the stress on the plantar fascia will reduce. How? So plantar fascia was pulled during MTP extension. Then what happened? It pulled both the struts together and supination occurred. So when supination occurred, this became lax, right? Because both the struts came together. So when this happened, when it became lax, it increased the MTP extension. How? See, when MTP extension happened, it became taut, right? When supination occurred, it became loose again. So now MTP has more range. It can go even more further into MTP extension to get the plantar fascia taut again. So when this happens, when plantar fascia is lax again, that is stress on plantar fascia reduces, there is increased MTP extension. And when there is increased MTP extension, the passive flexor force at the MTP joint will be increased. Now this will be again done by the plantar fascia. It was loose again, right? Then MTP extension increased. Over here MTP extension had occurred, but as your foot went for supination, the plantar fascia again became loose and it could go for even more increased MTP extension, which again made the fascia very taut. Now when this happened, there was increased passive flexor force at the MTP joint. See, the fascia was attached over here, right? So again it became taut. So basically it was pulling your phalanges downward. So passive flexion force at the MTP joint increased, which increased the flexion distally. So as your MTP extension increased even more, the plantar fascia over here, it became taut and it caused your MTP joint to go for flexion. Now the flexion distally pressed the toes into the ground. All these toes which are there, they pressed into the ground, and this improved the stability of the joint. It also prevented excess toe extension. Because your MTP joint has gone for so much of MTP extension, this plantar fascia is causing passive flexor force and it is preventing excessive extension at this joint. Okay, so let's look at this again. Let's have a quick look. So first MTP extension occurred, which caused the plantar fascia to become taut. Now this taut plantar fascia, what it did is it pulled both the struts together and it caused supination of the foot, which was supported by your intrinsic muscles and the tibialis posterior. Now because of the supination, the plantar fascia again became loose, which allowed the MTP to go for more extension. When this more extension occurred, it again became taut, and this time when it became taut, it had a passive flexor force on the MTP joint, which helped you to distally press the toe on the ground. The toes were pressed on the ground because the plantar fascia from below was pulling it downward. It pulled the MTP joints downward or for flexion, and this increased your stability and also prevented excessive MTP extension. Because of the plantar fascia, excessive MTP extension was prevented, and that is your windlass mechanism. Now let's go on to the weight distribution, how the weight is distributed in the foot. Now this is going to be very simple and we'll finish it quickly. The weight distribution comes from the talus, that is your body weight is being transferred from the tibia downward and talus takes all the weight, right? So from here the weight is distributed posteriorly and anteriorly. Posterior will take 50% of the weight, whereas the anterior part will take another 50% of the weight. So if you see here, the talus will distribute the weight posteriorly and anteriorly. Now anteriorly, the medial part will take more weight. The talar head will take more weight compared to the lateral side. Lesser load will be there on the lateral ligaments, due to which there will be lesser compressive force compared to the medial talar head, which will take 2 times the weight at the talonavicular joint. So if you look at the foot over here, the talus is taking the weight and 50% is being transmitted posteriorly and 50% anteriorly. Now if you look from top, you see that the talar head is more oriented medially and talus will pass most of the weight to the navicule and the forces will get dissipated from there down compared to the lateral side, which is not much in contact with the talus, right? So that's why the major weight is taken up by the navicule or the talonavicular joint. Apart from that, when you are standing on your foot, 60% of the weight is taken up by your calcaneum, 8% by your midfoot, and then the 28% by your forefoot. During the push-off phase, metatarsal take around 80% of the weight. Now, this can be a problematic situation when a person has a deformity like hammer toe. Basically, what happens in hammer toe is your intrinsic muscles most of the time are weak, due to which there is increased MTP extension. So there is MTP extension over here and your toes will go for flexion again. So you'll be weight bearing but with lot of MTP extension, due to which there is even more increased pressure on the metatarsal head, right? So what this will do is it will cause injury. Now what kind of injury? It can cause skin break. So because of the excessive pressure on this area during weight bearing, there can be a skin break and this can cause even more further problems, because hammer toe is mostly seen in people with diabetes. So in diabetes what happens is there is something called as peripheral neuropathy, where all the intrinsic muscles of your foot become weak, due to which it will go for MTP extension and this will increase the pressure and cause the skin break at the metatarsal head. And as you know, in diabetes there is a branch called as the diabetic foot care, where you take care of the foot, you prevent any injury to the foot, because the healing of the foot is already impaired in diabetic foot. So diabetic foot causing hammer toe, which causing a skin break, which will be not healed because of the diabetes again, causes a vicious cycle. So we should be very careful about that, to check the MTP extension in a diabetic patient and give them the proper advice. Now during walking, the heel strike occurs first, right? And during that part, there is around 80 to 130% of the body weight being transmitted. Now this is magnified even more when you are running. The forces increase up to 220% of the body weight. Now these forces are dissipated by your heel pad. Just below your heel, there is something called as the heel pad. Now this consists of the fat cells and chambers formed by the fibrous septa that attach to the calcaneum, so which are present like this under your calcaneum. Now these contain collagen, elastin and water, which absorb all the forces that are being transmitted, and these structures normally start diminishing as the age increases. As age increases above 40, these structures start getting diminished. So we should be careful about that too. And finally, coming to the last part of the video, the muscles. The muscles play very important role in giving the stability to the plantar arch. Now the muscles can be divided into two parts, the extrinsic and the intrinsic muscles. So what is intrinsic and extrinsic muscles? Intrinsic muscles are basically the muscles which are present in your palm, whereas the extrinsic muscles will be muscles which will be coming from your forearm and going and attaching it in your palms. So all the intrinsic muscles which are present over here, they'll cause the flexion of all the toes and will help you grasp the foot and also provide stability, right? Whereas what about the extrinsic muscles? So the first extrinsic muscles, it comes from the medial side. So it comes behind the medial malleolus from top, like this. It will come medial from the medial side, and then it will go and attach to the navicule over here. So when the muscle is attaching to the navicle, and then when the muscle contracts or it pulls, the leg will go for inversion, right? When it is pulling, it will go for inversion. The other muscles are the flexor hallucis longus and also the flexor digitorum. All these are on the plantar aspect, and when they contract, they flex the toe and the lesser toes and increase the stability. Whereas on the lateral side, there is the peroneus longus tendon which provides the transverse stability. So this muscle comes behind the lateral malleolus. So again, this was the foot. So the muscle comes from the lateral side. It goes from the fifth metatarsal and then goes and attaches to the base of the first metatarsal. So if you see from the lateral side, if it goes and attaches over here on the medial side to the base of the first metatarsal, and when it contracts, it will take the leg into eversion. So inversion, eversion, and also the grasping property is provided by all the muscles, and these are called as the dynamic sling because they help your foot to adapt to different surfaces in different situations, and this support is providing especially during the stance phase. So that is the function of the muscle. Okay, now let's summarize the topic. We first talked about the plantar aponeurosis attachment to the calcaneum, plantar plate and the phalanges. Then we saw how there are compressive, tensile and both combination of forces over here. Then we saw the function of the plantar arches, that is how it provides the stability and mobility with the windlass mechanism. Then we finally saw the weight distribution, how it occurs in the foot. We also saw how the 80% of the force is transmitted at metatarsal, and this increases during hammer toe and causes a vicious cycle in case of diabetes, causing the skin break. And then finally we talked about the muscles, how they provide the stability to our foot and how they cause different movements. In next video, we will talk about muscles in depth, all the muscles around the ankle joint. So that's all for today guys. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Also let me know in the comment section what other videos you would like me to cover.